Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatchideshatarine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaudavani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatchideshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya,
Prabhu Nityananda
O Nityananda,
Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Taikura Premanande.
Hari 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 Bol.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to everyone online. Hare Bol, we have Ashok Prabhu, Rasalila Mataji, Hare Krishna. Thank you for tuning in. Hare Krishna. We have Bhakta Adam, and we have Adishwari Radha Mataji, Hare Krishna. And that's all for now. Hare Krishna.
Good seeing you, Ashok.
Hare Bol. Yeah, so, yep, we're just continuing on. Everybody knows, basically. I'm just reading, but at any time we take questions, comments, and anything, so you can just unmute yourself and just say it. And we like the discussion. So any and all discussion points are welcome. And today we're continuing in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, Text 9, 199. We're hearing about the passing away of Bhishma Dev. And so we're just going to continue on. So if you can, please repeat. I'm going to do the invocation, and we're going to dive right in. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Ridyantasto Yabhadrani Vidhunoti Sarit Satam Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyutama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Okay. All right. Continuing on. 199. Tan sametan mahabhagan upalabhya visuttamaha pujayamasa dharmagyo deshakala vibhagavit. Bhishma Dev, who was the best amongst the 8 Vasus, received and welcomed all the great and powerful rishis who were assembled there. For he knew perfectly all the religious principles according to time and place. Purport. Expert religionists know perfectly well how to adjust religious principles in terms of time and place. All the great acharyas or religious preachers or reformers of the world execute their mission by adjustment of religious principles in terms of time and place. There are different climates and situations in different parts of the world, and if one has to discharge his duties to preach the message of the Lord, he must be expert in adjusting things in terms of the time and
Can I
place.
say something?
Yeah, sure. Please.
So this seems to be like an allusion to. It seems that Prabhupada may also. I don't know if he's intending to, but it's reminding me at least of whenever he says according to time and place, the preachers adjust their like what they do. What is it? What's the? Let me find it. By adjustment of religious principles in terms of time and place. This reminds me of how when people preach, or how really just good preachers, because they're practicing what they preach, they're constantly trying to see through the eyes of Shastra while they live. And I know this is something you probably do, at least more than I do it. So I'm just wondering, like, if I want to start doing that, like, how can I like kickstart that? Because I've always kind of wanted to, but it's never exactly just fallen into place, even though I want it to. I'm wondering what exactly I might be missing, like seeing through the eyes of Shastra in every situation.
Well, um, I mean, you may be doing it and just not know. Basically, the empowerment comes from, the bona fide spiritual master, and by following his instructions. And of course, the more we hear um, Shastra, the more we hear from devotees, the more we are actually chanting, then we get more and more realization comes. And
Yeah.
it's just kind of a thing that comes, with time. But, you know, somebody may be born with picking up where they left off in the past life, and they are able to expertly present for time, place, and circumstance. And basically, the best thing we can do is just do the basic practice, just keep chanting. And, you know, Krishna will use us whether we're aware or not sometimes. So it's just a matter of if we're not feeling fulfilled in that, we can also pray and also
Yeah.
continue with faith that by following the prescribed process. And if you're taking shelter of Srila Prabhupada's 16 rounds, following the regulative principles, taking association with devotees, and we just have faith that when it is needed in the right time and the right way, Krishna will um, you know utilize this fallen soul.
Very nice.
Yeah, but yeah, if we just like focus on especially japa, just chanting japa, then everything else kind of just naturally falls into place. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah. That's great. Oh, by the way, about my Japa. Yeah, that Japa revolution definitely is starting to take place
Very
since you
nice.
told me that, at least in that regard that we talked about.
Very good. All right, Krishna.
Maybe.
All right, well. Okay. Continuing on, there are different climates and situations in different parts of the world, and if one has to discharge his duties to preach the message of the Lord, he must be expert in adjusting things in terms of the time and place. Bhishma Dev was one of the 12 great authorities in preaching this cult of devotional service. and therefore he could receive and welcome all the powerful sages assembled there at his deathbed from all parts of the universe. He was certainly unable at that time to welcome and receive them physically because he was neither at his home nor in a normal healthy condition. But he was quite fit by the activities of his sound mind, and therefore he could utter sweet words with hearty expressions, and all of them were well received. One can perform one's duty by physical work, by mind, and by words, and he knew well how to utilize them in the proper place, and therefore there was no difficulty for him to receive them, although physically unfit.
When you read about those 3 ways we can do our work, what does that make you think of? Because to me, that was like a pretty huge thing.
Um, I'm just drinking in Prabhupada's purport.
Okay,
Uh, yeah, nothing for me right now, but maybe here in a little bit.
awesome.
Yeah. Okay, text 10. Krishnam chatat prabhavagya asinam jagarishwaram hridishtam pujayam asa mayayopata vigraham. Lord Sri Krishna is situated in everyone's heart, yet he manifests his transcendental form by his internal potency. This very Lord was sitting before Bhishma Dev, and since Bhishma Dev knew of his glories, he worshipped him duly. Purport. The Lord's omnipotency is displayed by his simultaneous presence in every place. He is present always in his eternal abode, Goloka Vrindavan, and still he is present in everyone's heart and even within every invisible atom. When he manifests his eternal transcendental form in the material world, he does so by his internal potency. The external potency, or the material energy, has nothing to do with his eternal form. All these truths were known to Sri Bhishma Dev, who worshipped him accordingly. Pandubhuttanupasinaan pashraya prema sangatan abhyachashtanuragashrayar andhi bhutena chakshusha. The sons of Maharaj Pandu were sitting silently nearby, overtaken with affection for their dying grandfather. Seeing this, Bhishma Dev congratulated them with feeling. There were tears of ecstasy in his eyes, for he was overwhelmed by love and affection. Purport. When Maharaj Pandu died, his sons were all small children, and naturally they were brought up under the affection of elderly members of the royal family, specifically by Bhishma Dev. Later on, when the Pandavas were grown up, they were cheated by cunning Duryodhana and company, and Bhishma Dev, although he knew that the Pandavas were innocent and were unnecessarily put into trouble, could not take the side of the Pandavas for political reasons. At the last stage of his life, when Bhishma Dev saw his most exalted grandsons, headed by Maharaj Yudhisthira, sitting very gently at his side, the great warrior grandfather could not check his loving tears, which were automatically flowing from his eyes. He remembered the great tribulations suffered by his most pious grandsons. Certainly he was the most satisfied man because of Yudhisthira's being enthroned in place of Duryodhana, and thus he began to congratulate them. Oho kashtam aho nyayam yadyuyam dharmanandanaha jivatum narhata krishtam vipradharma chutashrayaha. Bhishma Dev said, Oh, what terrible sufferings and what terrible injustices you good souls suffer for being the sons of religion personified. You did not deserve to remain alive under those tribulations, yet you were protected by the Brahmanas, God, and religion. Purport. Maharaj Yudhisthira was disturbed due to the great massacre in the battle of Kurukshetra. Bhishma Dev could understand this, and therefore he spoke first of the terrible sufferings of Maharaj Yudhisthira. He was put into difficulty by injustice only, and the battle of Kurukshetra was fought just to counteract this injustice. Therefore, he should not regret the great massacre. He wanted to point out particularly that they were always protected by the Brahmanas. the Lord, and religious principles. As long as they were protected by these three important items, there was no cause of disappointment. Thus, Bhishma Dev encouraged Maharaj Yudhisthira to dissipate his despondency. As long as a person is fully in cooperation with the wishes of the Lord, guided by the bona fide Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and strictly following religious principles, one has no cause for despondency, however trying the circumstances of life. I'll read that sentence again. As long as a person is fully in cooperation with the wishes of the Lord, guided by the bona fide Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and strictly following religious principles, one has no cause for despondency, however trying the circumstances of life. Bhishma Dev, as one of the authorities in the line, wanted to impress this point upon the Pandavas. One second, I'm just going to plug in here. Battery's getting low. There we go. Okay. Text 13. Sangstate tirate pando pratabala prajavadu yasmat krate bahum kleshan prapta tokavati mahu. As far as my daughter-in-law Kunti is concerned, upon the great General Pandu's death, she became a widow with many children, and therefore she suffered greatly. And when you were grown up, she suffered a great deal because of your actions. Purport. The sufferings of Kunti Devi are doubly lamented. She suffered greatly because of early widowhood and to get her minor children brought up in the royal family. And when her children were grown up, she continued to suffer because of her son's actions. So her sufferings continued. This means that she was destined to suffer by providence, and this one has to tolerate without being disturbed. Sarvam kala kritam manye bhavatam chayadapriyam sapalo yadvashe loko vayor eva ghanavali. In my opinion, this is all due to inevitable time, under whose control everyone in every planet is carried, just as the clouds are carried by the wind. Purport. There is control by time all over space within the universe, as there is control by time all over the planets. All the big gigantic planets, including the sun, are being controlled by the force of air, as the clouds are carried by the force of air. Similarly, the inevitable kala, or time, controls even the action of the air and other elements. Everything, therefore, is controlled by the supreme kala, a forceful representative of the Lord within the material world. Thus, Yudhisthira should not be sorry for the inconceivable action of time. Everyone has to bear the actions and reactions of time as long as one is within the conditions of the material world. Yudhisthira should not think that he had committed sins in his previous birth and is suffering the consequence. Even the most pious has to suffer the condition of material nature. But a pious man is faithful to the Lord, for he is guided by the bona fide Brahmin and Vaishnav, following the religious principles. These three guiding principles should be the aim of life. One should not be disturbed by the tricks of eternal time. Even the great controller of the universe, Brahmaji, is also under the control of that time. Therefore, one should not grudge being thus controlled by time despite being a true follower of religious principles. Yatra dharma suto raja gadapanir vrakodaraha Krishnostri gandavam chapam sahrit krishnastato vapat. Oh, how wonderful is the influence of inevitable time. It is irreversible. Otherwise, how can there be reverses in the presence of King Yudhisthira, the son of the demigod controlling religion? Bhima, the great fighter with a club, the great bowman Arjuna with his mighty weapon Gandiva, and above all the Lord, the direct well-wisher of the Pandavas. Purport. As far as the material or spiritual resources were required, there was no scarcity in the case of the Pandavas. Materially, they were well equipped because two great warriors, namely Bhima and Arjuna, were there. Spiritually, the king himself was the symbol of religion, and above all of them, the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, was personally concerned with their affairs as the well-wisher. And yet there were so many reverses on the side of the Pandavas. Despite the power of pious acts, the power of personalities, the power of expert management, and the power of weapons under the direct supervision of Lord Krishna, the Pandavas suffered so many practical reverses, which can only be explained as due to the influence of Kala, inevitable time. Kala is identical with the Lord himself, and therefore the influence of Kala indicates the inexplicable wish of the Lord himself. There is nothing to be lamented when a matter is beyond the control of any human being. Wow, how nice was that? I just want to read a little bit of that again. Wow. Kala is identical with the Lord himself, and therefore the influence of Kala indicates the inexplicable wish of the Lord himself. It's amazing. Yasya karhichit rajan puman veda vidhit sitam yad vijigyashaya yukta muhyanti kavayopihi. O king, no one can know the plan of the Lord Sri Krishna. Even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. Purport. The bewilderment of Maharaj Yudhisthira over his past sinful acts and the resultant sufferings, and so on, is completely negated by the great authority Bhishma, one of the 12 authorized persons. Bhishma wanted to impress upon Maharaj Yudhisthira that since time immemorial, no one, including such demigods as Shiva and Brahma, could ascertain the real plan of the Lord. So what can we understand about it? It is useless also to inquire about it. Even the exhaustive philosophical inquiries of sages cannot ascertain the plan of the Lord. The best policy is simply to abide by the orders of the Lord without argument. The sufferings of the Pandavas were never due to their past deeds. The Lord had to execute the plan of establishing the kingdom of virtue, and therefore his own devotees suffered temporarily in order to establish the conquest of virtue. Bhishma Dev was certainly satisfied by seeing the triumph of virtue, and he was glad to see King Yudhisthira on the throne, although he himself fought against him. Even a great fighter like Bhishma could not win the battle of Kurukshetra because the Lord wanted to show that vice cannot conquer virtue, regardless of who tries to execute it. Bhishma Dev was a great devotee of the Lord, but he chose to fight against the Pandavas by the will of the Lord, because the Lord wanted to show that a fighter like Bhishma cannot win on the wrong side. Tasmadidam daiva tantram vyavasya bharatarshabha tashanu vihito nata natapahi prajaprabho. O best among the descendants of Bharat, Yudhisthira, I maintain, therefore, that all this is within the plan of the Lord. Accepting the inconceivable plan of the Lord, you must follow it. You are now the appointed administrative head, and, my Lord, you should now take care of those subjects who are now rendered helpless. Purport. The popular saying is that a housewife teaches the daughter-in-law by teaching the daughter. Similarly, the Lord teaches the world by teaching the devotee. The devotee does not have to learn anything new from the Lord because the Lord teaches the sincere devotee always from within. Whenever, therefore, a show is made to teach the devotee, as in the case of the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, it is for teaching the less intelligent men. A devotee's duty, therefore, is to ungrudgingly accept tribulations from the Lord as a benediction. The Pandavas were advised by Bhishma Dev to accept the responsibility of administration without hesitation. The poor subjects were without protection due to the battle of Kurukshetra, and they were awaiting the assumption of power by Maharaj Yudhisthira. A pure devotee of the Lord accepts tribulations as favors from the Lord. Since the Lord is absolute, there is no mundane difference between the two. All right, Krishna. Eshavai Bhagavan Shakshad Adyo Narayana Puman Mayan Mayaya Lokam Gudaschadati Vrishnasu. This Sri Krishna is no other than the inconceivable, original personality of Godhead. He is the first Narayan, the supreme enjoyer. But he is moving amongst the descendants of King Vrishni, just like one of us. And he is bewildering us with his self-created energy. Purport. The Vedic system of acquiring knowledge is the deductive process. The Vedic knowledge is received perfectly by disciplic succession from authorities. Such knowledge is never dogmatic, as ill-conceived by less intelligent persons. The mother is the authority to verify the identity of the father. She is the authority for such confidential knowledge. Therefore, authority is not dogmatic. In the Bhagavad Gita, this truth is confirmed in the 4th chapter, Bhagavad Gita 4.2. Hey, Bhakta Adam, if you don't mind, will you look up the definition of dogmatic? If you don't mind, if you can. In the Bhagavad Gita,
But
this
I'll do
truth is... Sorry?
just saying I'll do that. Sorry.
Thank you. Therefore, authority is not dogmatic. In the Bhagavad Gita, this truth is confirmed in the 4th chapter, Bhagavad Gita 4.2. And the perfect system of learning is to receive it from authority. The very
Alright, I
same
got it.
system... You got it?
Yeah, it's you ready?
Yeah.
Re one, it's an adjective and it's one relating to, characteristic of, or resulting from dogma, okay? Asserting or insisting upon ideas or principles, especially when unproven or unexamined, in an imperious or arrogant manner. Characterized by such assertion often with unconsidered rejection of criticism. Yeah, you see.
So, based on that definition, can we say that, you know, dogma or a dogmatic viewpoint is basically without proof?
Yeah, or if it's lackluster, like unexamined, like just like it's kind of like stigma.
That's nice because a lot of people might think the word dogmatic means like too authoritarian or something, which tends to
Yeah,
be there. Sometimes like if there's like a fanatical mood about something, we become like very authoritarian about it. But here, Prabhupada says that authority is not dogmatic. So I thought that was an interesting point to separate those two. Authority, and basically in this case, we're hearing, like Prabhupada says, the mother is the authority to verify the identity of the father. So through Shastra, we can verify and hear and understand the identity of the God. And basically, it's not dogmatic because all the proof is there. And basically, like, especially in Krishna consciousness, the proof of the pudding is in the tasting. So, if there's a scientific process that's presented, if you chant this mantra, if you do these activities, then the result is going to be, you know, your connection with Krishna is going to be revealed to you over time. Then it's authoritative and it's not dogmatic, right? Because the proof is there.
yeah,
So anyway, I just wanted to
yeah.
dig into that a little bit.
I'm in total agreement. I think it's really good that you did because actually the Asura in me keeps trying to tell me that like what if the Vedas are just like what if they're dogmatic basically? And then he just goes ahead and gives the analogy of the or the example of the father and the mother, which you're so nicely expounding on. So this is very nice. Can you say anything else to maybe assuage my stupid Asura inside of my mind that keeps telling me that maybe the Vedas are like somehow like trying to stump them somehow. Like this is what happens when you expose yourself to like someone who's like really staunchly trying to tell you that you're wrong for believing in them. I know I can accept for the most part that they're right. No, I'm just wondering, can you say anything to like help me out maybe?
Well, I mean, you're hearing it first from Prabhupada. I mean, you just have to, it depends on, how much you're willing to receive that. But then at the same time is, we receive it, we hear it, we understand. But, even though we hear this, we might find some devotees may take it in a dogmatic way or become dogmatic in their presentation of it. And we can understand that actually this is not, even though what they are preaching might be true, to do it in a dogmatic way is not complete. And it's not, and right here, according to this, or this purport, it's not, Prabhupada's mood is not dogmatic. So,
Yeah.
then we can also, practice that ourselves and try to understand, which is what we're doing. We're doing the best thing we can do just by hearing right now, like hearing Prabhupada's books. We're doing the best thing we can do to basically Prabhupada's training our minds how to think in Krishna consciousness just by hearing like this. So, um, yeah, I think we're doing pretty good. But it's nice to hear because I have met devotees who have come and received instruction from like a really staunch preacher, and people sometimes get the impression that we're very dogmatic. So
Yeah.
um, this goes back to like the first purport that we read, that an expert, probably I'd use the word religionists, an expert preacher, a more advanced preacher knows how to adjust and present according to time, place, and circumstance, and we should just try ourselves to cultivate the proper mood. So to me, it's inspirational, and to me, it's fun to hear and to have Prabhupada putting all these things in perspective. Is very practical. These points are very practical for us also, just in our own application, and then also, trying to share with others. So I don't really know if that directly answered the question, but those are just some. Sorry. Those are just some thoughts on the topic.
Yeah, that's very good. Uh I guess like the stupid thing that I don't want to say but that keeps happening in my mind is that I just see that it's like okay, he says that the Vedas are not dogmatic because they're deductive. What does he mean by deductive, actually? Can I ask that?
Well, deductive means he's talking about receiving knowledge from. There's the deductive process. There's the descending process, and then the ascending process. So he's talking about receiving knowledge from authorities instead of trying to figure it out by yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that mental speculation is fruitless. I think I just have a certain person who argued with me one time online who got into my head. I'm still recovering from your prayers.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I mean,
yeah,
dogma means, like we're learning today. Uh, it's not provable, and people automatically assume that religion or anything that has to do with God is not provable because
yeah,
the situation in the material world is that everyone's facilitated to cultivate the perception of their desire. So some people are desiring to cultivate a conception where God does not exist, atheists, and there's all kinds of, you know, evidences and phenomenon, the way that they perceive things in their minds validates that perspective. And that is a facility given, that's how it is here. If that's how you want to see things, then basically Krishna is going to give you whatever you need or want to validate it. We see what we're really looking
Yeah.
for. But that being said, they can't disprove the existence of God. And basically, like an atheist can't prove that there's no God to a theist, and a theist can't prove to an atheist that there is a God. But um, we have a scientific process that basically, if anyone takes up the process of bhakti, then they can actually see for themselves God. Krishna will reveal himself to one who does it properly and sincerely. And in that way, actually, we're the trying to prove that God does not exist is not possible, but it is possible to prove God's existence to those who actually really want to see.
Yeah.
So, anyway, just some thoughts.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if someone doesn't want to see, it doesn't matter how much you wrestle with them, they're not going to see. They're going to see it in their own way. So, that's why, like, you have the Kanishta Adhikaris, they're devotees, but they don't really have much scriptural knowledge, and they tend to bicker with one another, and they really only see Krishna in the temple. Then the Madhyama Adhikari is the intermediary level where there's some discrimination. There's a scriptural knowledge. The Madhyama Adhikari is the preacher. So the difference between a Kanishta Adhikari and a Madhyama Adhikari is that the Madhyama Adhikari can determine who's advanced, who's innocent, and who's envious. And so for those who are advanced, they offer respect. For those who are innocent, they will preach, they'll offer some compassion, whatever they can, or friendship, with peers. And with those who are envious, they stay away from them because they're envious.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear. So, you know, we can, Prabhupada's purports really give us a lot of strength to stand on our own ground here. And basically, if somebody else doesn't want to hear it or they have different ideas, that's fine. But you know, even if we don't have all the answers right now, we can just we can inquire, ask devotees, and if we keep reading Prabhupada's books, we'll develop the faith that actually everything is in here. And so if I don't have all the answers right now, it's like I'm committed to Prabhupada, and even if
Yeah.
somebody makes a good argument, if I'm not advanced enough to counter it or whatever, I mean, at the very base level of it is like, I mean, why would we want to give up Krishna consciousness anyway? Even just on the material level, it's the nicest thing we can possibly do. The best music, the best food stuff. You should have seen the feast here this evening. You know, uh,
Yeah.
Shok Prabhu, Rasalila Mataji, they cooked, and then the devotees from New Vrindavan, they brought even more, and then there was like several
Wow.
different kinds of sweets and cookies and halava and simply wonderfuls were here, paneer, sag paneer, and just oh man, I mean, just on that level, best music, best foodstuffs, nicest people. It's like, well, I'm not really interested in this atheistic way of eating corpses. And anytime I've seen like debates between like atheists and theists, usually the atheist just visibly looks um, kind of disturbed compared to the theist. And that's just my experience. But anyway,
Yeah.
it just depends what we want also. If you really want Krishna consciousness somehow or other, will sometimes having these interactions with people can give us the inspiration to go seek out the answers for ourselves in Prabhupada's book, and then we deepen our own realization, and then next time you got one in the chamber for someone who brings up that argument. So that's fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, just some thoughts.
Yeah, it's all true. I believe in Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah. All right. Where were we? Um, okay. The very same system is accepted universally as truth, but only for the false arguer. But only the false arguer speaks against it. For example, modern spacecraft fly in the sky, and when scientists say that they travel to the other side of the moon, men believe these stories blindly because they have accepted the modern scientists as authorities. The authorities speak, and the people in general believe them. But in the case of Vedic truths, they have been taught not to believe. Even if they accept them, they give a different interpretation. Each and every man wants a direct perception of Vedic knowledge, but foolishly they deny it. This means that the misguided man can believe one authority, the scientist, but will reject the authority of the Vedas. The result is that people have degenerated. Here is an authority speaking about Sri Krishna as the original personality of Godhead and the first Narayan. Even such an impersonalist as Acharya Shankar has said in the beginning of his commentation on the Bhagavad Gita that Narayan, the personality of Godhead, is beyond the material creation. The universe is one of the material creations, but Narayan is transcendental to such material paraphernalia. Bhishma Dev is one of the 12 Mahajanas who know the principles of transcendental knowledge. His confirmation of Lord Sri Krishna's being the original personality of Godhead is also corroborated by the impersonalist Shankar. All other acharyas have also confirmed this statement, and thus there is no chance of not accepting Lord Sri Krishna as the original personality of Godhead. Bhishma Dev says that he is the first Narayan. This is also confirmed by Brahmaji in the Bhagavatam 10:14-14. Krishna is the first Narayan. In the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, there are unlimited numbers of Narayans who are all the same personality of Godhead and are considered to be the plenary expansions of the original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. The first form of the Lord, Sri Krishna, first expands himself as the form of Baladev. And Baladev expands in so many other forms, such as Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, Vasudeva, Narayan, Purusha, Rama, and Nrsimha. All these expansions are one and the same Vishnu Tattva. And Sri Krishna is the original source of all the plenary expansions. He is therefore the direct personality of Godhead. He is the creator of the material world, and he is the predominating deity known as Narayan in all the Vaikuntha planets. Therefore his movements amongst human beings are another sort of bewilderment. The Lord therefore says in the Bhagavad Gita that foolish persons consider him to be one of the human beings without knowing the intricacies of his movements. The bewilderment regarding Sri Krishna is due to the action of his twofold internal and external energies upon the third one, called marginal energy. The living entities are expansions of his marginal energy, and thus they are sometimes bewildered by the internal energy and sometimes by the external energy. By internal energetic bewilderment, Sri Krishna expands himself into unlimited numbers of Narayans and exchanges or accepts transcendental loving service from the living entities in the transcendental world. And by his external energetic expansions, he incarnates himself in the material world amongst the men, animals, or demigods to reestablish his forgotten relation with the living entities in different species of life. Great authorities like Bhishma, however, escape his bewilderment by the mercy of the Lord. Just check the time here. Well, it's almost time to stop. I'll read one more verse, and then if there's any points, get them ready. And then after this verse, we'll take the final comments. Asyanubhavam Bhagavan Vedaguyatamam Shivaha Devarashir Narada Shakshad Bhagavan Kapilo Nripa. O King, Lord Shiva, Narada, the sage amongst the demigods, and Kapila, the incarnation of Godhead, all know very confidentially about his glories through direct contact. Purport. Pure devotees of the Lord are all bhavas, or persons who know the glories of the Lord in different transcendental loving services. As the Lord has innumerable expansions of his plenary form, there are innumerable pure devotees of the Lord, who are engaged in the exchange of service of different humors. Ordinarily, there are 12 great devotees of the Lord, namely Brahma, Narada, Shiva, Kumara, Kapila, Manu, Prahlad, Bhishma, Janaka, Shukadeva Goswami, Bali Maharaj, and Yamaraj. Bhishma Dev, although one of them, has mentioned only 3 important names of the 12 who know the glories of the Lord. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one of the great acharyas in the modern age, explains that Anubhava, or the glory of the Lord, is first appreciated by the devotee in ecstasy, manifesting the symptoms of perspiring, trembling, weeping, bodily eruptions, and so on, which are further enhanced by steady understanding of the glories of the Lord. Such different understandings of bhavas are exchanged between Yashoda and the Lord, binding the Lord by ropes, and in the chariot driving by the Lord in the exchange of love with Arjuna. These glories of the Lord are exhibited in his being subordinated before his devotees, and that is another feature of the glories of the Lord. Shukadeva Goswami and the Kumaras, although situated in the transcendental position, became converted by another feature of bhav and turned into pure devotees of the Lord. Tribulations imposed upon the devotees by the Lord constitute another exchange of transcendental bhava between the Lord and the devotees. The Lord says, I put my devotee into difficulty, and thus the devotee becomes more purified in exchanging transcendental bhava with me. Placing the devotee into material troubles necessitates delivering him from the illusory material relations. The material relations are based on reciprocation of material enjoyment, which depends mainly on material resources. Therefore, when material resources are withdrawn by the Lord, the devotee is cent percent attracted toward the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Thus the Lord snatches the fallen soul from the mire of material existence. Tribulations offered by the Lord to his devotee are different from the tribulations resulting from vicious action. All these glories of the Lord are especially known to the great Mahajanas, like Brahma, Shiva, Narada, Kapila, Kumara, and Bhishma, as mentioned above, and one is able to grasp it by their grace. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthana Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Go to Premanande. Hari, Hari.
Hari 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 Bo.
What a nice purport. And it was
Yeah.
that there's a direct connection also with the purport we heard earlier. We're hearing about devotees taking on difficulties and tribulations.
Yeah.
And Krishna says, I put my devotee into difficulty, and thus the devotee becomes more purified in exchanging transcendental bhava with me. Placing the devotee into material troubles necessitates delivering him from the illusory material
Mhm.
relations.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a theme that we heard today, being, at least for us, like practicing, seeing the challenges and tribulations and things as somehow or other, seeing the Lord's hand in them for our purification. And devotees hear this, we hear this, and devotees, we tend to hear it and think, yeah, I know that, but there's different levels to it. It might be easier to apply with a minor challenge, but then when we get one that hits us deep, personally, it might be a little harder to remember and apply. And sometimes, heavy stuff might happen, and it takes us some time to process it before we can see how the Lord's hand was in it. Sometimes it might take years. Sometimes we might become bitter, and hanging on is hard to let go, or to hear Prabhupada saying, placing the devotee in the material troubles necessitates delivering him from the illusory material relations. So it's not easy to give up those relations or connections in the material world. whether it's literal relationships or whatever it is, some kind of sense gratification we're attached to or whatever. So anyway, it's nice to remember and try to let go. To see Krishna's hand in it, and then we will be a lot happier. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nice verse,
Jai.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. You have any insight or anything, Prabhu, you'd like to share?
Now, it was kind of interesting to see that Lord puts you in trouble just to. I didn't get that part.
Right. Yeah. You know, sometimes we may be attached, and Krishna. You know, we might be a sincere devotee. We're chanting. We're trying to be more Krishna conscious. But I also like doing my certain things I like, and you know, we may have some. You know, we may be doing it with no problem, but then sometimes Krishna will put the problem in it, so we're like something we're trying to enjoy becomes really not so enjoyable, and we get frustrated. And basically, what Prabhupada's saying here is, we're being it's like a blessing to help us become more detached from the material enjoyment or whatever the thing is that we're attached to. And that's actually a blessing, even though on the superficial level, in our experience, it may be basically like hell. We're like suffering like anything. And I can give a little bit of a personal example of this in my life personally. Like in Vedic astrology, you know, we have these planets Rahu and Ketu.
Mm-hmm.
Ketu is the mysterious south node of the moon, who is directly connected with detachment. But Ketu and Rahu are generally seen as like unfavorable, malefic planets because they will give you hell. They will make your so many problems. And like for example, for me, I have Ketu and Cancer in my eighth house of relationships, and so that means that basically, especially familial relationships, close relationships, like partnerships and stuff like that, is basically no matter what I do, I might be even functioning as perfectly well as anybody can. There will be weird problems constantly. You know, if I'm you know talking to somebody and I think everything's okay, and then they'll just have some problem. They'll just get an idea and or something negative, and then they will go away, or some other relationship. You know, no matter what I do, it's perceived as I'm doing something bad, and they get mad at me and this and that, or whatever it is, something like that. So in my life, this has personally caused me so much pain and distress, and I later found out about this astrological arrangement, and that K2 is actually trying to help me, push me towards a specific way of being detached emotionally from material relationships, material enjoyment in a certain way. And I started trying to embrace that and become more emotionally attached to the Lord or devotional service or something like this, and to not try to do what I was doing because it was the same thing over and over and over again. So, um, you know, superficially, it can basically just look like, you know, oh, this guy's dealt a bad hand, bad karma or something. But actually, if we understand the lesson behind it, it can really help us and actually deepen our Krishna consciousness, which is happy and blissful, and our peace, and just live better, and ultimately save us from having to come back and do it again and trying to do the whole thing again, because Even if everything goes really fine this whole life, I'm still gonna have to die and leave it all behind anyway. So it's not really, it's not really a good deal. But anyway, so I'm sorry, I don't want to be too long-winded on it. But what do you think, Prabhuji?
Yeah, I think you're right. We have Radha had a nice comment.
Okay, let me see. It's like Kunti when something terrible happens to you. The first thing you think of or say is Krishna. God help me. Awesome realization. Cosmos is so cool. Yeah, yeah. They also another word for it is cosmic sensitivity training. You know, or like if you're like into like exercising, weightlifting. They'll have like weak point training. Where it's like the one point I'm weak. I'm training that part, and it's really hard to do this thing, even though for some other people maybe it's really easy, but for me it's my weak point. Yeah, like cosmic sensitivity training is like Krishna, ultimately, especially for sincere devotees, Krishna will take a personal hand in our life and give us the cosmic sensitivity training to strengthen where we're weak in Krishna consciousness. So, yeah, it's like that. Like lifting weights and working out can be painful and
Mm,
difficult. But by doing that, then we become strong.
that's a good point.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Any other points from anybody? No.
Thank you so much. That was awesome stuff.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
See
Prabhuji.
you tomorrow.
Yep. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, I was really tired today. Sorry.
No, Prabhuji. I'm just grateful. Thank you for cooking and hosting and doing a lot.
It was a nice program today, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, it was nice.
Music was beautiful.
Absolutely. And everybody was interacting a lot too. I'm always happy to see guests
Yeah.
coming and connecting well with the devotees. I'm like, okay, this is good. Community building.
Bhakta Adam, we are missing you.
I'm missing you very much as well. Every day I think about y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah. You take care of yourself and come soon.
Okay.
So, Hare Krishna. So,
Hare Krishna.
all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Vansha kalpa tarubhishcha kripa
Patapatubhishta
sindhubhya eva cha.
Kripasindudevacha
Patitanam
Patitanam
bhavna vebhyo
Bhavanebhyo
vaishnavebhyo namo
Vaishnavebhyo Namo
namaha.
Namaha.
Nantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki.
Jai.
All right, Hari Bol.
Haribol.